Hi everyone, Sabrina here from Scrappy Tales Crafts, and today I'm showing you the 5 cards that I created with the December 2018 Hero Arts card kit. This kit was fairy themed and it had a cute mouse and these dandelion images, which of course I'm not coloring as dandelions. I wanted some pink and purple flowers, but I do color some of these in yellow as well. I decided to stamp, color, and die cut all of my images in the beginning of the video before I started to assemble my cards. I like this method for me because I think I go a little bit faster. You can see I color sort of like in assembly line style, but I mainly do this because I don't like to stop, color, and die cut my images while I'm making cards. I like to have a pool of images to work with and just kind of create my cards that way. But people have different methods, and sometimes I end up with a few extra pieces, but that's fine with me. So I typically use 2 or 3 markers. I am coloring these with my Copics. If you want to replicate the way I'm coloring these images, I do have my caps off to the side. For most of my images, I color from dark to lightest, but with this flower, I wanted to try Kelly Letavola's style of coloring. She is a beautiful Copic colorist, and her method is going from darkest to lightest back. No, I'm sorry. She goes from lightest to darkest back to lightest. So this was the first time I tried this, and I think the blend is really nice with this method, but I felt like I lost my contrast color. So you will see that I go back in with my darkest marker and add back in contrast. By the way, if you aren't into coloring, I will leave a minute and seconds that you can fast forward to, and that will show you the beginning of card 1 and how I made it. But I know some people do like to watch coloring, and I also want to sneak in some life updates. It wouldn't be a Kelly Letavola style video if I didn't include a story time. I am subscribed to her because I come for her art and I stay for her story times. I think she's very entertaining, and I'm a nosy person and I like to know about other people's lives even if that person is a stranger. So maybe I have some Kelly Letavola subscribers and people might be interested in my life as well. So the reason why I've been gone and why this video is 2 months late is because I got married on December 22nd. Yes, that is crazy, right? Oddly enough, this kit came a week before my fiance at the time came to Florida. He's in the Air Force, by the way. He lives in North Dakota. Bless him. It was negative 55 the other day. Anyway, so I got this kit a week before, and guys, I promised myself I'm going to have this December kit posted before I was married. But oddly enough, I created the first 3 cards before I was married, and then the last 2 cards today after I'm married. So that's kind of weird. This is going to be like the one video on my channel that has both sides of me. I guess it's not a side. Is it like a transition in my life? That sounds really cheesy, but yeah, I thought that was weird. Anyway, I am adding the Stardust glitter pen that came in the kit to the fairy's wings. I do put little dots of sparkle onto all of the fairy's dresses. So yeah, I got married on December 22nd. Of course, that's right by Christmas, and Christmas is my favorite holiday. So as a kid, I always wanted a spring wedding, and I wanted it to be rustic with mason jars and burlap, and I wanted it to be outside, country kind of theme, right? But, you know, it was so close to Christmas that I kind of wanted to include that in somehow, but I didn't want it to be candy cane, red, white kind of Christmas. So I went for white, green, and then the burlap color that I really like. And so it was Christmas themed, but it wasn't in your face, like obnoxious Santa red colors at my wedding. It was, like I said, what I always wanted, those rustic colors. And then like some darker greens. I handmade all of my wreaths, garlands. Jennifer McGuire posted a video about these glass ornaments that she created with glitter, and I bought Sharpies. So I created the glass ornaments like her tutorial showed, and then I got Sharpies and people wrote messages to me and Anthony, that's my husband's name, they wrote messages on the ornaments, and so we'll be able to hang them on our tree in the future. So that was kind of special. I found most of my ideas on Pinterest, by the way. That was not my idea, but it was Pinterest worthy wedding, guys. This looked like a wedding you would see in, I don't know what those magazines are about weddings, but that's definitely what you would see my wedding as. It was all DIY. It was in my parents' backyard. I handmade also my invites. By the way, this is my favorite fairy. I think she's really trendy. I like her outfit, and the headband she has around her head is exactly what I got married in as well. I had a flower crown because I'm a hippie, and that's kind of the trend in weddings right now. People aren't using veils as much, but flower crowns. So I went full on bohemian, country, hippie, whatever you want to call it, and I loved it. So anyway, I handmade my invites. I wish I did a video on it because I created my RSVPs and my invites. I made 30 of them in a day. I had my mom's help, but that's pretty quick for me considering it takes me like all day to make 10 cards. So they ended up being beautiful, and I wish I did a video on it. I might revisit it in the future, but right now I don't want to. I'm kind of weddinged out. But yeah, and the weather on my wedding day was absolutely perfect considering that the days leading up to my wedding, it was raining every single day. And not just for a few hours of the day, but literally all day, every day. So we were worried that we'd have to rent out a tent, and that would have been so much extra money. But I don't know, some miracle happened, and it was bright and sunny, and the weather was perfect. It was like high 60s, low 70s, which that is a pretty cool day in December for Florida. Probably people up north are like chuckling because that is like super warm. But yeah, it never goes below like 60 during December. So it was a perfect day, to say the least. I decided to color this fairy like Tinkerbell. I couldn't help myself. Her dress and her hair just looks like Tinkerbell. Am I wrong? I decided to color her wings with a light green marker, and now we can start card 1. So off camera, I die cut and colored and stamped a jar. This is a lawn fawn jar. I colored it with my light blue Copic markers. Now I'm adding some acetate behind it, and I'm going to double up on my foam tape and add that to the back of my jar. So this die set comes with the die cut that cuts the actual jar, and then it cuts a frame, so it cuts the inside of the jar out. So it's meant for shaker cards. I believe it's called How You Bean. So you're meant to put like jelly beans in the jar, but I'll link it below. I have used it a lot. It's one of my favorite lawn fawn sets, but I thought that this fairy fit perfectly into the jar. And like I said, she was my favorite fairy. She was the first one I wanted to use. And when I first got the kit, this was the first idea that popped in my head, and I thought adding the sequins that came in the kit would add a cute little touch to the jar. And yeah, so like as a kid, I don't know why or where I've heard this from, but this whole concept of putting fairies in jars, I guess there's a scene in Peter Pan that has Tinkerbell in a jar, and I guess that's why I thought of it. But now I'm going to add the lid. I do believe I popped that up, and then I'm deciding if I want to use this paper, and I really like the side that had the fairy wings, so that's what I decided to use. I'm going to use some Versamark ink and stamp my sentiment, and I'm going to add some purple glitter embossing powder and heat set that sentiment. The sentiment reads, "Sending happy fairy wishes your way." I really liked this kit because it wasn't it wasn't geared toward a holiday, so it could get away with posting this video 2 months late because it really works for any occasion, and I think this would be a cute kit to use for Mother's Day. So I added a few of the ladybugs off to either side of the jar, and I wanted a pop of red. And now I am placing some of the sequins onto the card panel. I am using a wax pencil I got from Amazon to pick up my sequins, but don't quote me. I feel like a Crayola crayon would possibly work to pick up your sequins because it's made out of wax, right? But I've never tried it. I don't know for sure. If your kid has a crayon, maybe try it. But yeah, so now I am adding some tape onto my card base because I didn't let those Nuvo drops dry completely and I didn't want to ruin them. And I decided last minute to add a bit of gray and white twine around this jar. I thought that would add a really cute final touch. So here I'm fiddling around with it. I will place some art glitter glue behind the knot just to make sure it doesn't untwine, what is the word? It doesn't unravel when I send it in the mail. And that would be card one. I think this one's super cute. I love the shaker element. And there is a close-up. For card two, I wanted to create an A7 card base so I can use up a lot of the images that I colored and die cut. Right now, I'm kind of arranging some of the images into a cluster that I feel looks nice. On the bottom right corner, I have the purple fairy that's sleeping on the pink flower, and then there's some dandelions surrounding it. And then up on the upper left-hand corner, I have the Tinkerbell fairy, who's a little bit larger, and I felt like that balanced the scene a bit more. But before I start gluing things down, I'm going to glue down this gold frame that I cut from the cardstock in the kit. The frame that I used is a Sizzix layering die, and I layered two to create the frame, and then I used one of them to create the window. And the window was cut from the pink glitter cardstock that came in the kit. I don't know the name of the die. I will try to link it below. I've had it in my stash for the longest time. But I think a stitched rectangle would be really cute as well. It doesn't have to be ornate like this, but I thought that this was nice. I added some acetate behind the window. I always seem to do that with my window cards. I think it adds a nice, elegant touch to cards. I don't know. Acetate and vellum I think looks really pretty on cards, and I try to incorporate it when I can. And so now I can start arranging my flower arrangement. So some of these images I'm going to glue straight down onto the panel, and then some I will pop up. So that big pink flower I decided to pop up, and then also the fairy. I put some foam tape behind her wings and the back of her dress, and then I put normal glue on like the front part of her where she's sleeping on the flower so that it's level with the flower. I'm keeping those bits that I cut off of the stems, and I'm adding that to the bottom to make it look like those flowers are longer than they actually are. And I actually created more stems off camera, and I didn't color the actual flowers. I just colored the stems in case I wanted to make some a little bit longer, and I can attach them together. Alright, so now I'm adding my little Tinkerbell, and I wanted to use these ladybugs and a few of the dandelion seeds just around the panel, filling it up a little bit more. I wanted to use that sentiment, which I'm going to glue directly on my card base in a second here. I'm just finishing up the last few touches. I'm popping up this red ladybug with the dandelion seed. I thought that was adorable. And then I try to add that leaf, but I end up taking it off. Now I'm taking my A7 card base and placing my panel over it. I try to use the back of my paintbrush to mark out where I want to stamp my sentiment. It ends up not being in the right place, but you'll see how I fix that. I am going to use that same purple sparkle embossing powder. I think I got it from Sprinkle and Sparkle. It's a really pretty purple glitter embossing powder. And I'm not sure what this sentiment says. I think it was no dream is too big or too small, or no wish is too big or too small. And you can see when I put my panel on, it's like a little bit off to the left. So what I did was I cut that card base down. I made a new card base, and I glued this panel onto the card base more towards the left. I hope that makes sense. And so now you can better see it on the panel and it's not off to the left. I added some foam tape behind and I will pop that up onto my card base and that will complete card number 2. Really pretty. I think it's an elegant card and that little bit of sparkle and gold foiling adds a nice elegant touch. For card 3, I wanted to create another A7 card base, so I'm taking a blue piece of cardstock that I cut down to 3/4 of an inch smaller than a 5x7, and so there will be a more of a wider white border on this card. I'm taking a fence die that I have in my stash. I'm not sure where I bought it from or what company it's from, but I will try to link it below if I find it. And then in front of that fence, I wanted to put this grass that is from Fawn. I'm going to trim off some of those longer grass pieces. I thought it looked a little bit better. And now I can start arranging my scene. I wanted this cute little mouse, my favorite image in the stamp set, to be sitting on this mushroom. So I'm adding some foam tape behind the mushroom, and I will add foam tape behind the mouse. On his little butt, I add art glitter glue, and that way I can glue it directly on the mushroom and both of the images are level. And now I'm taking a few of the dandelions and staggering them at different heights. I want some of them to be taller than the mouse and some of them to be a little bit shorter. And I think this card is adorable. I think it's my favorite. And so you can see I'm making some a bit taller. The ones that I make taller, I will have to add an extra, like a longer stem to them. So you'll see what I do in a second. Towards the top of him, he's blowing on the dandelion, so I thought it would be cute to add some of the seeds flying off of it. So I glue those directly onto the panel. Now, I think with all of these flowers, I'm gluing them directly onto the panel as well. And I am using my art glitter glue. That pink flower, I was able to make it longer by using one of the leaves that came in the stamp set. But you can see this dandelion, I placed it behind the mushroom so that way I can tuck in a little bit of an extra piece of stem and you won't be able to see that I glued it there. It just looks like a continuous stem. And I did use the stems that I die cut and colored. See, I'm trying to make that leaf work and try to extend it that way, but it doesn't work. So I'm adding an extra stem to make it longer. You don't really notice it unless you look super close. And then, oh yeah, I do decide to add a leaf where that seam is, and that will hide it. And then I'm just going to add that last little yellow dandelion. And now I'm taking my card base. But before I do that, I want to stamp my sentiment. I decided to use Believe because that's the only stamp that will fit on this scene. I also, of course, wanted to use another ladybug. I think I use a ladybug on every card just because I love the pop of red. I decided to white heat emboss the Believe. I forgot to use my static tool, so I have a few flyaways, but it's not too bad. I get most of it off with my paintbrush. I'm going to go ahead and heat set it and then add some tape onto this panel. And then I will add it to my top folding card base. I did decide to glue the ladybug right next to the sentiment, and that will complete card number 3. Super cute. And of course, card number 4 is going to be another A7 card base. I don't know, they're kind of my favorite now. I'm a scrapbooker, so I like to work a lot on bigger surfaces. So I tend to gravitate towards 5x5 cards or 5x7 cards. So what I'm going to do now is this is an actual card base, and I'm going to just stamp out with my Memento ink a bunch of the, I think every dandelion flower that came in the stamp set. And so I'm just going to create a custom background here. I'm not going to like show you the whole process, but I'm being very random. I'm trying to stick from one corner and work outwards. I'm not trying to like stamp everywhere and try to fit things in as I stamp. I think working from one corner to another is the best way to make a background. So that is what I'm doing here. And I know I'm behind on the Hero Arts kits. I did get the yearly subscription for my birthday, so I do have the January kit, but I really wanted to do the December one because it is such a cute kit, and I know that it's versatile for every holiday and every occasion. But I should have the January kit posted by this weekend. I'm having a little bit more trouble with it, with coming up with original ideas. All the videos I've seen have been very similar to my ideas, so I don't want to create cards that you've already seen. So I should have 5 cards for that kit coming out this weekend. I also bought the February card kit from Simon. It is my first Simon kit, so I do plan on doing a video for that kit as well. And so now my background is finished. I added some of the dandelion seeds as a filler for my background to cover up some white space. And now I'm going to go ahead and color these dandelions. They're very easy to color. I decided to use my colored pencils for this. And I'm using 3 shades of yellow for the yellow dandelions, and then for the dandelion seeds, and then the, I don't know what these dandelions are called, but these ones with the seeds I'm coloring also with gray. And then the stems I'm using a very bright green. I wanted to use that bright green glitter cardstock that came in the kit, so that's why I went for really bright yellows and bright greens. Again, I won't show you this whole coloring process, but I am showing you a few of the flowers. Now I'm stamping my sentiment that says "Never Stop Dreaming" with my VersaFine ink onto that yellow glitter cardstock that came in the kit. Now I'm adding some double-sided tape to the bottom of my card base. I actually didn't have my trimmer. I'm at my apartment right now, so that's why there's a change of scenery and a different mat. So I have to use my scissors to trim that down. And now I wanted to use some ribbon. Originally, when I envisioned this card, I wanted to use that chunky, like thick purple ribbon because I felt like that would look really nice on an A7 card base, but I couldn't find it anywhere. So I decided to use this pink ribbon that came in the January kit. So I laid a strip of that ribbon across the top of the sentiment, and then now I'm creating a bow. But like I said, I think the purple ribbon would look even prettier than this, especially since I believe purple and yellow are complementary colors. And that pretty much completes card number 4. It was a very simple card, but I think the background kind of speaks for itself, and I liked how it turned out. For card number 5, we will make an A2 card base, and at this point I wanted to use up the rest of my flowers and images, so all I had left was that little mouse that was holding the dandelion, and that came from the extra stamp set that you got if you were a yearly subscriber. So if you didn't get this stamp set, you can easily replace this mouse with a fairy, I think. So just like the second card, I had that leftover ornate shape, and I wanted to use that. That's the one I cut from the window from card number 2. So I laid that on top of the gold panel, which I covered my entire card base with. And now I'm creating another flower arrangement, sort of like card number 2. I decided to put some off to the corner of one side of the card. And I used up the last of my dandelions. And to cover up that bit where the stem isn't long enough, I placed a leaf on top, and then I'm going to tuck in just a teeny tiny piece of stem, and it looks like it's just one continuous stem, and it didn't look like I had to chop it and add that in. So I thought about using that fairy that also came in that extra stamp set, but decided not to. But instead, I used the ladybugs because they're my favorite. And again, that Papa Red I love. So I decided to pop up my little mouse and then one of these ladybugs. And then I'm going to stamp the sentiment that says thank you. And be careful, this cardstock, the glitter cardstock that came in the kit, is a little bit slick. So you might want to use your Misty, but I was bold and I did it with my block and it ended up being fine. This card I am mailing out. I have already mailed it out, so I can't show you it in the showcase. And then the first 3 cards, which I made in December, have already sold in my shop and they are mailed out. So I can't show you a display, a card display, so I do apologize for that. But please leave me a comment letting me know which card was your favorite, and I will see you guys next time. Bye!